Hey guys, what's up again? It's Dan from CryptoCamacho.com, and today I have a topic I want to talk about that's been intriguing me for a long time. It's been kind of bugging me for a little while, and it's definitely a very debatable and controversial topic, but I'm very interested in it because it has some significant or profound impacts. It could, depending on what happens through 2018. I'm talking, guys, about Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash in the debate between the two coins. So if you guys remember back in August of 2017, Bitcoin had an initial hard fork. And what that means is that Bitcoin essentially split into two. And the remaining was Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash was the newly created, blockchain supposedly that came out from this hard fork that happened in August. Since then, we've seen highs and lows on both coins. If you go to look at Bitcoin, we've seen, since that fork has happened, we've seen the price of Bitcoin go all the way up to 20,000, now all the way down to about 8,000-ish. It went down to about 7,000 today. Bitcoin Cash, very, very similar, went up to about 4,200, now down at about 1,000, went down to about 1,000 just a few days ago. Both coins have gone up tremendously and have dropped about 70% since their top, since they've been at their high for the year, right? And that was all really happened in the last, let's say 2 months. It's happened. And now there's still an ongoing debate of which blockchain is actually the original Bitcoin. Which one is Bitcoin, right? Is it Bitcoin Core or is it Bitcoin Cash? And I've been watching how this plays out in the last several months, right? Since August. In August, I had no idea what is this? What's going on? Had no idea, right? Got some free Bitcoin Cash, so forth and so on, just like everybody else, right? If you own some Bitcoin, you got some free Bitcoin Cash. And I've been watching how this plays out. And the more and more I watch how it plays out, it's becoming very, very evident to me that more and more and more, service providers, application or app creators, influencers, exchanges, they're all starting slowly to support and accept and adopt Bitcoin Cash. Now, there's something to that for me that says, there's something to this Bitcoin Cash. There's something to the technology. There's something to what's going on in the market. Otherwise, why would all of these different people start, accepting and creating applications and building out infrastructure for Bitcoin Cash? That's kind of point number one. So whether or not you're an ideologue and you believe that Bitcoin Core is the one and only true Bitcoin, the original Satoshi Nakamoto vision, so forth and so on, it doesn't really matter. Just look at what's happening in the market and you can clearly see that more exchanges are adopting Bitcoin Cash. More applications are being built on Bitcoin Cash. I mean, I can name a few: Changelly, BitPay, Binance, Bitfinex, Bittrex. Like, all the exchanges are now accepting it. They're now creating more trading pairs for Bitcoin Cash. If you just look at BCC, you got trading pairs here. You got trading pairs here. You got trading pairs all over the place. If you look at BCH, which is another symbol it goes by, even more trading pairs. And it's becoming more and more clear that Bitcoin Cash is being more and more accepted over, the different cryptocurrency communities and so forth, right? There is still a very, very significant debate going on of what is the true Bitcoin, right? What is the true Bitcoin? Is it Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Core? One other thing to point out here, which is interesting to me, is just purely looking objectively at what each of the coins can actually do. And I know for Bitcoin Core, there's going to be a lot of people that say, Lightning, the Lightning Network, segregated witness, they fix all of these red X's right here. Maybe true, right? That may be true, to be fair. And I'll go into that in just a second here. But just looking at the blockchains themselves, just looking at the cryptocurrencies themselves with no other layer on top, no other layer attached, just the currencies themselves, just the blockchains themselves, here is how Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Core stack up against each other, right? And I know this is debatable, but just hear me out here. So Bitcoin Cash has a green check mark for all of these things, right? Low transaction costs, fast peer-to-peer transactions, reliable transactions, decentralization of the actual blockchain, open source code, so forth and so on, right? Digital currency. Bitcoin Core, on the other hand, simply does not have the same level of features, capabilities, characteristics that Bitcoin Cash does, just purely looking at the blockchain, right? It is very slow to transact. It's very expensive to transact. It's not even really worth transacting anymore. If you guys have ever, gone to Coinbase and bought Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash, and have tried to move them from Coinbase to an exchange like Bittrex, Bitfinex, whatever, you'll notice that Bitcoin Core is ridiculously slow. I've had it take over 24 hours to literally make a transaction from Coinbase to Bittrex, to make a transaction or a transfer of funds from one exchange to the other. It's literally taken over 24 hours, and that is absolutely ridiculous given the market that we're in. They claim that Bitcoin Core is digital gold, right? Digital gold, or the new gold, which is fine, right? Traditionally, gold has been a storage of value. It is something that has, has held value over a long period of time. Although it's very difficult to transact. You can't take gold to the store and buy milk. You just can't do it, right? So it's a little bit harder to transact with. You have to sell it, then get the money, then go to the store and buy something, right? So it is a good storage of value. It has been for thousands of years, but very, very difficult to use. Now Bitcoin Core supporters are claiming that's what the mission of Bitcoin is to be a storage of value. That's not necessarily what Satoshi Nakamoto envisioned when he labeled, on his white paper, peer-to-peer electronic cash, right? That is not what Bitcoin Core is today. And if you guys have even just tried to use Bitcoin itself, it's very, very clear that it is not going to work as a currency. It's just not going to work. And in terms of a storage of value, all you really have to do is go to, the exchange. And I don't know about you, but gold does not fluctuate this much, right? If you want to store value somewhere, you do not put it in a place that fluctuates 20, 30, 40% in a single day. If you were to, hold or put $100,000 in Bitcoin as a storage of value in December, and you thought, yep, I'm going to store my value just as I would buy gold, you would be, out about 60 grand, now today within 2 months, right? So storage of value, maybe eventually Bitcoin Core will become a storage of value, but today, absolutely not. I would not trust my money in Bitcoin to act as a storage of value. I just wouldn't. I've done it and I've lost money doing it. So I systematically take money out of Bitcoin because I don't want it to fluctuate and lose money. Is that a good storage of value? Absolutely not. So now proponents of Bitcoin Core claim, okay, the Lightning Network segregated witness is going to fix all of this, right? So all these X's that are red are going to turn green. That's what everybody's touting, right? Lightning is going to be the savior of the world. Well, okay, the first thing I have to ask myself is how many applications, how many companies are now embracing and accepting and adopting the Lightning Network? It's actually been a lot slower than people have anticipated, right? Not as many people are doing it. It is starting to pick up steam a little bit. And I've noticed that the transactions are getting faster and faster, right? Coinbase has accepted it. So the transactions are getting a little bit faster. Still not that fast, but they are getting faster. But let's take a closer look at the Lightning Network and what the Lightning Network really is. And I've always suspected that Lightning Network will be essentially a centralization layer on top of Bitcoin. I've asked this question to many people in communities on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, and they all say, nope, Lightning Network is completely decentralized, just as Bitcoin Core is itself. In reality, that's really not the case. That's a sham. That's complete, utter nonsense, right? Look at this article, look at other articles, and study what Lightning Network is, and you will come to terms with the fact that Lightning Network, it is simply a settlement layer on top of Bitcoin Core. It's on top of it, right? It is not part of Bitcoin Core. It's a settlement layer on top, similar to what banks do with Visa, similar to what other third-party mediators do to verify transactions in any financial or monetary network and system. It's a settlement layer, guys. That means that it can be centralized. Look at this article. Lightning Network centralization leads to economic censorship, which completely goes against what Bitcoin is supposed to do, to act as peer-to-peer electronic cash that's fully, completely, and utterly decentralized so that no government, regulatory agency, or monetary system can regulate it, guys. That is the point. So now, look at this article real quick. It seems that the realities of Lightning Network's limitations are being accepted, and now narratives are forming to justify the continued morphing of Bitcoin into a settlement layer. For example, and it gives an example of how that's actually happening on Reddit. You can go read that yourself. Large Bitcoin nodes versus large Lightning hubs. To play devil's advocate, myself, the author of this article, says, the argument goes like this. Large, expensive Bitcoin nodes are just as bad as large Lightning Network payment hubs. So they're comparing the two, right? A large miner could decide not to include your transaction in block, just as a payment channel could decide not to route your payment. To that, he would say, you got one part of that wrong. A large miner, or even a majority cartel of miners, cannot effectively censor your transactions because any miner, and that's key, any miner can include your transaction in a block. It does not have to be a specific miner. So the miner cartels, they don't have to be the ones to verify the transaction. It could be me in my garage to verify the transaction. That's a very, very important point, guys. On the Lightning Network, the same is not true. Lightning networks can effectively censor your transactions because not any hub can route your payment. If you have a set of coins in one specific channel, it has to be routed using that specific channel. That in and of itself centralizes the Lightning Network solution, guys. That's the point. That's why it's not a decentralized system. Right here, you can see it. You can read it. Go read other articles if you don't believe this one because it's from Bitcoin.com. Go read other ones. Really, seriously do. I would love to know the other side of this because I'm just not seeing it, guys, and I've been looking at this for a little while. Okay. Side note, we're not talking about 51% mining attack here. Just to clarify, I'm ignoring the situation. We're unwailing. Okay, yeah, there are some issues, obviously, with the cartels, which we can get into as well. We can safely ignore that edge case because, okay, why can't you just use censorship free? Okay, in other words, as long as reorg attacks aren't consistently happening, some miner will eventually include your transaction in a block, and no one can stop that. That's on the Bitcoin Cash side of things, guys. Okay, so remember, Lightning Network is not permissionless. The problem isn't necessarily you finding a censorship-free hub, but rather being able to route your payment to others who haven't. For example, Megabank A, B, and C all decide to become Lightning hubs. They all acquire customers and have channels open between the three banks. This allows customers from any of the banks to send money to other customers of those three banks. You, being a freedom-loving individual, decide to open a channel with an anonymous hub, only known as T35G7. Guess what? Megabanks A, B, and C don't want to open a channel with T35G7, so that you can't send any of your customers since there's no available route. I think it would be a matter of time before a system either falls into complete censorship or fractures. Even if you believe the probabilities of these outcomes are small, it should be considered as a deal breaker. This is very, very important, guys. This example and this point itself. This is a way that big institutions that have an invested interest can bypass the decentralization of Bitcoin itself, of any blockchain itself, by adding a settlement layer on top. If any cryptocurrency needs a settlement layer on top, if any cryptocurrency needs a centralized element to its functioning, it's a sham, it's bogus, it's not truly a decentralized free cryptocurrency and cannot ultimately be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Very, very important, guys. I want you to know that. Okay, so next, who is behind Bitcoin Cash? I've kind of come up with a few, right? So the main people behind Bitcoin Cash in terms of influencers, recently Gavin Andreessen, who's one of the earliest enthusiasts, coders, developers in Bitcoin. He's talked with Satoshi Nakamoto over email. He's one of the founders, right? He's recently come out and said that, and I think I have an article open right here. He's recently come out and said that, let's see, I Google who supports Bitcoin Cash. And I think one of the first results that came up, I can't, maybe I thought it was in here, but it says Gavin. I mean, you could just type in Gavin, right? And it'll come up. Gavin Andreessen throws support behind Bitcoin Cash. That happened in November, so he's now a supporter of it. John McAfee has long time been a supporter of it. Roger Ver has taken a lot of heat. He's been one of the original founders of Bitcoin. He's taken a lot of heat for it. He is pushing that Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin itself, right? Charlie Shrem is behind Bitcoin Cash. Craig Wright is behind Bitcoin Cash. Jihan Wu, one of the largest miners, is now behind Bitcoin Cash. The guys from Dollar Vigilante are now behind Bitcoin Cash. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is a government scientific agency, recently published a paper coming out in favor of the Bitcoin Cash. An NIST paper claims Bitcoin Cash is technically the real Bitcoin. And you can read through this article yourself, but it does give scientific evidence of why Bitcoin Cash is truly the real Bitcoin. And it came from the original blockchain, and it is the original blockchain. to give credence again that Bitcoin Cash is legitimate. So all of these things, guys, are now coming to a head. In 2018, it's really, really going to come to a head of, what is really the real Bitcoin? Is it Bitcoin Core or Bitcoin Cash? Maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe both coins can exist in the long run, and they likely will both exist in the long run. But what's going to happen to the price? What is going to happen to the price of Bitcoin Core and the price of Bitcoin Cash, right? Bitcoin Cash, I'm seeing, predictions. Calvin Ayre predicts Bitcoin Cash price of $10,000 in May. John McAfee has predicted a very high rise in Bitcoin Cash as well. Government Institute claims Bitcoin Cash is the original. All these different articles coming out now to support Bitcoin Cash. And I got to wonder, has this been planned all along, right? Has there been a hijack of Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash is now really the real Bitcoin? And has this been known all along? And is that why the markets are being manipulated right now to bring the cost of Bitcoin down and bring the cost of Bitcoin Cash up? I think the market is being equalized. I think people are trying to equalize the market. I think the whales, the manipulators, the institutions are in here trying to manipulate it to get people to adopt whatever one they want. I think there's a lot more potential in Bitcoin Cash, because if in the case that Bitcoin Cash, for whatever reason, gains more mass widespread adoption, you're going to see the price jump from 1,000 very, very significantly and quickly up thousands of dollars higher. And what that's going to do, it's going to make you a lot of money. You're going to also see Bitcoin Core drop even further. I don't know if this is going to happen. Bitcoin Core could go up. But in the long run, I'm a technologist. I'm a guy who knows technology, who's studied technology, who's been around technology, mainly marketing technology, but I understand technology nonetheless. I'm not a coder. But I just see that Bitcoin Core is not useful. It's not functional. There's not as much utility. So you can call it digital gold all of you want as a storage of value, which is fine. Use Bitcoin as a storage of value, but be careful because it may lose, 20% in a day. So to me, that's not a good storage of value, mechanism, right? Lightning, again, not a very good solution. If it's centralized, I do not like that. And I'm, starting to stack more of my eggs in the Bitcoin Cash basket rather than the Bitcoin basket because the potential is higher. I'm not an ideologue. I'm not, one to be like a loyalist to Bitcoin Core forever and beyond, no matter what happens, even if it goes to zero. That's utter nonsense, and I don't want to participate in it at all. I'd love to know your thoughts on this, guys. I'd love to know if you guys agree or disagree with me. I'd love to know if you're holding Bitcoin or if you're holding Bitcoin Cash, because I want to know, what's the real Bitcoin, guys. I don't really know. I don't really care so much as long as it makes some money. But I can really, really see the technological advantages of Bitcoin Cash over Bitcoin Core in my everyday life. When I use it, I can just see it. I can feel it. I can smell it. I can just see the snowball is gaining snow. The snowball is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as Bitcoin Cash gets more and more adopted. And it's going to come down to really the miners, the transaction fees, and the number of businesses that are able to use it and therefore adopt it. That's what it's going to come down to. If more people adopt Bitcoin Cash because it does more, it has more utility, it will win out, right? Lightning Network's going to throw a wrench into that. Don't know how it's going to play out, but would love your thoughts. I'm Dan again from Crypto Camacho, and please tear this apart. Let me know why I am wrong. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.